Hello and welcome back to another episode by your host, Slenvo the Silver Dragon. I have been working on things. Actually, I've been working too much on things and not getting videos out. That's the problem here, because you probably noticed a brief lapse again on my channel. And part of the reason was because I've been busy working on this project that I've been fiddling about with. Modular components. I'll get to that in a second. Before I got to work on that, I set up a little screen here of lights for interesting colored lighting. I only put in lights that I liked, so I could then use them in, say, like these modules here. That was the first thing I did. And then this part, like, I built these little modules that have their own custom lights installed, and each module is designed for different purposes. And it's like, here's like a miniature med bay. I've so far built 3 different medical bays. That one there, that one there, and that one there. I built also 3 reactors. This is a backup reactor center here, a regular reactor there, and a tri-core reactor there. Then I have like several crew bed rooms, and then there's also this regular personal, what did I call it? Personal quarters, small quarters. Yeah. The other one's a large quarters. And then, is there another one behind it? Yeah, and that one, what was that again? I forgot what that was called. Oh right, cryopod and battery supply. This is not done. It's something I've been working on, and I'm still working on each of these modules. The general idea for each of these modules is to present a sort of a base design of a room that is self-sufficient to a limit. It has a limited supply of power to operate on. Each of these could basically last on their existing functions for about a day or longer. The lowest one here, right here, can last about 21 hours. So it's the only one. It's the lowest one I've got. Jump out. On terms of internal power supply, I could probably add another couple batteries to extend that, but it's just a simple crew bedroom, so it's not that big a deal to actually provide it a bunch of extra power supplies. Each of these is supposed to be like modules you could put together to build a spaceship, basically. That's the intended goal, is to have a whole bunch of different components, just complete rooms that you could just put together into a general shape of a ship, and then you could build the ship shell around it. That's kind of the idea that I have with these particular rooms. I've also been trying to design them to be as functional in various fashions as possible. Each one has its own internal gravity generator, or generators. Some of them might have more than one. I think most of them only have one, though. They also all have their own battery supply of power. They all have lighting, so they're fully lit internally. Also, all of them have vents, I think. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. That one, that one, that one. And also, yeah, all of them have vents. At least one vent, if not multiple. And the reason why they have vents in the first place is because I figure when it comes to vents, I wanted to try and make something that was useful for alternative purposes. So this is sort of like a creative idea that you could basically, you have like your air supply that would be coming through the vents, of course, and then you could also have like people traveling through the vents to spy or try and get around the ship in times of war or something. That would be kind of cool for like roleplay purposes. And also vents are just kind of neat to have incorporated. And normally the designs of these ships, they just don't incorporate. Most ships, I don't usually see like venting is a common concern. It's just a bunch of rooms that kind of might look like this except no vent. And honestly, after putting vents in, I find that it's not actually too hard to fit vents in. Like all of these little, I made the vents obvious on these. Just a little wedge there that sticks out a little bit on these. And then you can, all you have to do from there is after you've hooked all the modules together, you can just like tear out a block here and then start hooking all the modules together through a venting system of some sort. And that would be great for like pushing air around the ship without having it limited to these doors that might actually block airflow, or probably do block airflow, considering they often might be used for, like, say, airlocks. So, I mean, there's different kind of value to that. Starting to get my thoughts jumbled up. I designed each of these rooms to be for a specific purpose or variable and levels of that purpose. For example, this is the first stage of just general crew quarters. So there's like there's room for 6 people in this particular module. That'd be good for, say, like a small vessel. This one has 12, and this would be good for, say, a larger vessel. And this one has 24, which would be good for an even larger vessel. And also you can always just tier them up like sideways. So if you need more crew quarters but you don't have enough like height for this one, or you want more just scattered around your ship so that if one dies it doesn't kill all the crew if they're like sleeping in there, that would be a good way to work that out. And with this kind of crew quarters, these personal crew quarters that are more designed for either like officers or for lower ranking people that aren't part of the main crew but aren't like the captain kind of arrangement. I am using some mods for these because unfortunately the game severely lacks beds, and it also lacks furniture of various demeanor. It's like you only got like a couple of chairs and some other systems, and this room literally would not exist in total if it didn't. The only thing that would be in this room if I didn't have any of the mods installed would probably be just this. The single LCD for the TV would be the only thing in this room, because everything else would be completely gone. There's no inherent vanilla beds in the game. There's no dressers in the game. There's no benches in the game. There's no ferns in the game. There's no sinks. There's no toilets. There's no showers. All of these items, which are luxurious and very nice, are only available via mods, which I didn't want to rely on mods for these modules, but some of the modules just won't work without some of these modules are just pointless because you don't have the block you need to stand for it. I mean, I could maybe use where was it? I know it's here. Where is it? There. These, you could use these for a bed, I guess. I don't like that, though. That's intended to be a barricade, not a bed. So, that didn't quite ring well with me. So I just decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and just put in the mods and try and keep the mod count down if possible. Some things I may have to collect separately, though. Most of these are just identified by like 2 mods in particular that add a whole bunch of decorations, which I'll mention in the description. These cryopods, on the other hand, are another separate mod that are added in, And I wanted to have cryopods because, well, you don't necessarily want every single person on your ship to be active necessarily. Having backup personnel is a good thing. And I figured having lots and lots and lots and lots of extra power supply is very useful. Honestly, this particular room right here is probably the most backup power intensive because it has about 63 days worth of spare power, and that's running the gravity generator. Right down there at the bottom says 62. Okay, 62, not 63. These aren't draining, right? No, they're not. Strange. It was 63 last I saw it, I thought. Maybe just my imagination. But basically, each and every one of these could operate on their own without any supporting power supply for at least a day, if not longer. Most of the larger ones will last at least up to at least half a week or longer. With that one being the longest so far, probably because of all the extra batteries installed. And this one down here, this backup reactors room, I think it would last. Yeah, this one would last 11 days last I checked. So more than a week on that one. And just having all these backup batteries installed, as costly as it would be in survival, would mean that if your ship got like shot to pieces, those pieces would still be functioning, most likely. I mean, unless it was just random scrap metal, the regular pieces of your ship could be shot into like 4 or 5 different pieces, and as long as it had a separate module in that piece for it, it would still have power, which would be pretty cool, I think. It's a great way to sort of like, it's redundancy, basically. And when you think about how more modern ships work, more modern day NASA space vessels work, they go overboard with redundancy. So I tried to make every single one of these rooms have their own centralized gravity generator that only applies to that particular module. See, if you're looking at the bottom right, the gravity is turning on and then turning off as I go in. Yeah, I've made sure to customize the gravity so it stops exactly at this gap right here. Same thing goes for basically the whole thing. The only problems with all of these modules is that the gravity right here is coming from the module above of each of these modules, because the gravity generators are centered in the floor. I considered trying to put them on. I've tried putting gravity generators on the ceiling, but I really didn't like the way it looked in most of these. I like the gravity generator being like just secluded under a panel or behind a wall or something that you can't get at very easily anyway. I mean, it's like in here the gravity generator is like down the shaft and then back in and under this panel, this floor here. The medical bay prevented me from placing a panel here, so I had to go a little bit thicker in the actual body of this particular module to put it in, but I think it worked out fairly well. All these modules are colorless, as you might see for the most part. The only exception is like this one down here, which is an older module I built. Like, this was like the first module I built, and I tried coloring its internals and stuff, and I was rethinking back on that. I don't actually want to color them at all. So the only exception is the lighting internally. Internal lighting. I'm trying to use lighting primarily as my color option, because if you look at these different rooms, they look kind of cool with their current lighting, but if I color them, it changes things a lot. I'll just give you an example. Like, there's this room here. See, this little medical bay, okay? Well, what if we just change the color to something, say, wait, hang on. There we go. And then just set, yeah, let's just paint it red. Okay? Just paint it red. As you can see, the blue light has been washed out by the red background. No. No. Just no. It ruins the lighting effect that I wanted to go for, and that's almost depressing. I mean, I could... another color example. Here's just a dark blue. Okay. Let's try a different one. How about a brown? Yeah, let's try brown. See what that looks like. Okay, a brown seems to be a neutral enough color that the blue isn't washed out, but it still feels... Let's try an orange. Again, just washed out. It's just washed out. There's no color. I mean, gray is fine. Gray is fine. And like here's just the dull metal color that I've been using. I like that one too. It's just something like this that just kind of bugged me about the kind of coloring available via lighting is not as good with, well, internal coloring options here. Kind of conflict in various ways. This one down here, it doesn't hurt as much because I tried to design that I used a neutral color like white here for a just to sort of like make the orange light stand out more against these blocks, but everything else was just a gray, so gray and white with orange lighting. I like different lighting colors because they add atmosphere to a design in these different things. And I turned off the sunlight. I turned on dark shadows for producing most of these, to make sure that if I turn off the lighting engine, the kind of ambient light measure that you have like here, like if I was like over here, this wall would just be black because there's no ambient light getting at it, basically. That's how it would if you turn the darker shadows on with a skybox. I wanted to make sure that the internalized areas in each of these compartments was well lit, in spite of that. So if you put your ship into, say, a dark world kind of situation, the internal lighting would make sure the ship's internals were always well lit so people could find their way around the ship fairly easily. Inside, anyway. I made this one a darker teal color, and it goes really well when you have a very dark room to work with, because it just makes all this room just becomes a heck of a lot more moody. Also, you notice the gravity in here is a lot lower. I set it down to like 1/4 normal capacity because I was considering logically, like, how would you get people into these other cryopods with a in the existing system. I was thinking, well, one way would be to add, say, these little climbing rails, so you can climb up from below into these capsules and get cryoed more easily. And also I figured, why not add on top of that low gravity for this particular room? I mean, all the other rooms are like at normally at 1, but this one can have a low gravity room, so you can just easily climb up with a lot easier than the other rooms, and just easily climb up in and get in your pod and chill. Also, with all the extra power, I originally just was going to make this a power room, but I wanted it to have like these pillars of batteries installed in here, and that looked cool. But then I was like looking at these big empty spots here, and then I was like, well, what could I put in here? And I thought and thought and thought, and I messed around in my thing, and I was like, oh, you know what I could put in here? Cryopods! And it actually makes some sense because, you know, you're keeping the batteries cool, the batteries are keeping the cryopods powered. It seems somewhat logical, at least. There's also these vents here to help keep airflow nice and strong throughout the ship. And yeah, that was. I'm trying to build these with some logic in their designs. I'm also building all of these to have their own doors in each compartment. So basically, each compartment here can. Let me say basically one more time. Every time I put one of these compartments together, they are basically, I said it again, separate pieces that can operate independently of any others. So, with that in mind, I wanted them to also be able to seal off an area or actively have multiple access points that could be closed in times of emergency or otherwise. And I'm thinking, like, I'm planning on building any ships that I build with their own gravitational system, so a broad gravity area. But if each and every one of these individual rooms has their own gravity, you can blow the heck out of whatever central gravity there is on the ship, and all the rooms will still have their own gravity. Also, similarly, with the generators, I plan on basically having multiple reactors, generators, whatever, yeah, multiple reactors per ship that are spread out in different moduled rooms for different purposes. I mean, just to keep the ship online in spite of things. And with all of the rooms having their own internal battery power supply and able to last for at least a day on their own, that means that if you have like an entire ship and the main cores are all somehow shut off, which it'll be hard to actually take them all out because they're not all in one place, a ship will often just keep functioning long after the fact that you've torn it to pieces. Even those pieces will still be functioning and trying to kill you. I've also been trying to incorporate conveyor blocks for parts of the ship for these modules that actually need conveyed resources. Medical bay doesn't really need conveyed resources. Personal rooms don't need conveyed resources, because you can usually transport whatever you need to them if you actually need to do that. The cryo chamber might be an example of something that you might want to actually have conveyed resources, like some kind of tanks for cryo supplies, or cooling air, but that's why there's vents here. Ultimately, this one did not necessarily need conveyors, but I mean it didn't necessarily need conveyors, so I decided, nah, I didn't bother with it. But yeah, I've been building all these different little rooms, just room after room after room after room, for like different things, for all these different pods, all these different places. Yeah. I wanted every one of these rooms to be able to function independently, keep lasting long after the fact that their ship might have been destroyed to a long, significant degree. So if they're just hanging around there in space, they're still functional. And I've also mildly considered actually installing like a self-destruct explosive somewhere in each of these units, so then you can basically trigger a mass ship-wide self-destruct operation. But then I considered, you know, if you're going to actually do that, that's going to be a weakness. Very significant weakness. Is like each pod could be destroyed by its own explosive, and probably a lot of stuff nearby, and might trigger a chain reaction across the ship. Yeah, no, I don't think I'll be doing that. I mean, just what you would need, what I really would need to best make use of it would be a specific kind of explosive that is designed to destroy the entirety of the ship, centered within, say, like the reactor, and only explodes when you overload it. Example. Kind of thing. So you have like a self-destruct device. But I haven't seen any of those on the workshop, so I haven't really gotten any. Be kind of cool to have one, but yeah. as you can see, most of the engineering bays have used interior floor walls for flooring and walling in these lower sections. I like how it I really do like how the interior floor looks, and it looks good for flooring. Interior walls look good on the side and good on the floor. The big issue is that this is unnecessary triangles, I guess, or something like that. I got a question though. Let me turn on spectator mode here real quick. This one should work. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so the interior walls here are being occluded, so it's not as bad. Plus, this particular one here will vanish as soon as it's attached to a hallway, which that's what these rooms are intended to do. This one I apparently I cannot fix. But there's various zones like this that I've set up just so... there's a plate there that's not occluding that. And just looking at these different things. Also, yeah, here you can see in these particular ducts, you got the I put little platforms so you can climb up, you can fly up a duct and then land on this platform and you can look inside. On all of these ducts, it's kind of funny to be able to do that. I like that capacity, that option for that, just supporting those people that actually want to use the ducts to sneak around and stuff, because that's kind of neat. And yes, I know these ducts end right here, basically, in just little inaccessible areas to some degree. But at the same time, after all, this little inaccessible area can be cut open and then attached to the rest of the parts of a ship. So that's kind of what that was going on there for. The other thing, there was a specific kind of duct. I like this one where it's on the roof. I mean, I put most of them on the sides, but this one's like in the roof. Because I didn't want it to have like be on ground level, and it just, no. For a personal room, that just seemed off to me. So I made sure to make that adjusted properly for intentions. Now I remember there being one of these, here's this one here has like a different kind of approach to it. It's like a slanted hall thing here. That's cool. What else is there to show? Oh yeah, we got like the reactor ducts in here as well. These little parts here are just batteries packed in. Yeah, they're just batteries packed inside of a reactor coupling kind of thing. I wanted these to basically be your example power coupling that goes to each of these. Then there's like, here's the conveyor couplings between each of these units. So that's kind of cool in its own, I think, in its own regards. I like these power couplings. I was thinking like maybe I could put in power couplings throughout a ship. It's like no, just in here. This is just them looking like their power plugged directly into these. And if you look in here, this is the part of the reactor that doesn't have a conveyor side, conveyor attachment. So I was just making it look cool and have extra power supply. Also, with all these reactors, their existing power supply is limited because I haven't actually put any fuel in them yet. Let's see here. This one. There we go. Yeah. Can I please get outside? Alright. There we go. Yeah, see, they're all empty still. I haven't put anything in them. But I plan on basically going through and adding at least like one uranium ingot, if not multiple, per reactor. And that way each of these has like a supply of resources inherent to them. And I plan on doing the same with all the other rooms exactly as well. That way when I copy in a module, it has all the inherent supplies it needs to function on its own independently. But I haven't gotten around to that yet because I've been building modules, which, Each one of these takes me like an hour or 2 hours to build, because I'm busy trying to design them with compactness, being compact. This is like a 3 by 3 by 2, yeah, 3 by 2, 3 by 3 by 2 sized room here, basically, and I'm packing a bunch of beds into the sides, which leaves it with a 1 by 2 by 3 hallway in between. And then you've got the vents behind those beds that are going up and over them. And there's also like the lighting I have to consider, and I have to also put in a gravity generator with either a cap on it or some other way of sneaking it into the flooring of each of these designs. I could, like I said, I could put it in the ceiling, but it looked ugly to me, so I've been trying to keep these in the floor for every single module. So it makes sense. It's like the flooring is a gravitational area. I wish you could independently control the gravity on these generators, not just on the 3 axes, but also whether it's straight up, straight down, left or right, forward or back. That way you could have a weirdly lopsided like cube based around a gravity generator that goes out to the sides and up or something. So then I could basically cut off the bottom gravity field, and then it would just only affect this module singularly. I haven't actually tested what the actual cost of turning off like all these gravity generators would do to the overall lifetime of the batteries on board. Let's just turn this one off for an example and see how much power it's got. 347 days. It could last a year without gravity. Yeah, gravity generators cost a lot of power to keep operational, but at the bare minimum, all of these can last at least a day with the gravity on. And if you don't want to waste energy, you can just turn the gravity off, and the station, each of these little modules would probably remain at least for a year, if not longer. Looking at you, battery room. So I'll just quickly visit each of these. I already did visit a bunch of them. Yeah, here's the small quarters for like you know, some ships like have only a few people on board, and at any time, at one time, so you might have like only one bed room for each person, and they have one single bed, and it's all a single room. It's a very compact little room that I think works out pretty nicely. This is like more of a crew compartment for a whole bunch of people. This one's like 24 people at once, so you'd be packing a whole bunch of people into this for like, say, a military ship or a civilian transport of large scale. It's like a colony ship or something. It's not like a private ship like that one would probably have. And this one's similarly like the other crew compartment up there. It's just a smaller scaled down one, and down here is an even smaller scaled down one. Saves 2 blocks on a dimension in that direction, making it have enough capacity for about 6 people. And then over here we've got the backup reactors I showed you already. They also have batteries down there. Whoa! And then up here we have the mini med room, which is just a very simple medical room for managing necessary operative requirements and so on. Strange, my screen appears to be shaking, blinking black occasionally. Here's like an officer's personal suite, and I figured it's pretty large, pretty nice too, I find. Hang on. Maybe that's causing the flickering, I don't know. Okay, and in here is like, it's got its own personal shower, toilet, and sink, and he's got his own personal bathroom basically. I plan on also building a module that is a bathroom like these, like this, just a specific module, except for like minus the shower. I'll have like the toilet and the sink and maybe a cargo container with stuff in it. It'll just basically be shaped like this, and I could put a bunch of these modules throughout a ship to provide bathrooms for people. Or I could make like, and I could also make like a a more dedicated bathroom stalls kind of design going on as well. There's a flaw with that, though. As you can imagine, putting walls in, they don't like to share spaces with existing blocks. So that becomes problematic as well. Yeah. On what other front? Yeah. Then down here we got like a larger medical bay. Just has like 2 extra med bays. All of these have venting, all these have gravity, all these have battery backups. Battery backup power supplies. The reactors even have their own battery backup supplies if they need it for some reason, like they run out of fuel or something, they got some extra power to provide the ship as well. And operate independently if they need to operate independently for some silly reason. And they also, the reactor rooms have their own storage. Come on. There's these cargo containers in here as well. The backup reactor doesn't have any cargo containers, but then it's not intended to be operational all the time. It's more like a backup, after all. So it would basically, the backup reactors would be basically offline the whole time, for the most part. And then we've got like this large medical bay for lots of people all at once. That'd be good for all kinds of purposes. And then up here we've got the last one, of course, which is the cryo and battery room. And I've seemed to have basically gotten crew, power, and medical handled so far for all these modules. And I'm going to be building more modules in the near future. I also designed a airlock module kind of thing. I was just working at it and just thinking, like, you know what would be kind of nice? I actually looked at in one of the mods I installed that includes these airlock doors. What came with it, or what was actually the main draw, supposedly for it, was these docking rings. I mean, look at that. Doesn't that look awesome? Unfortunately, the only way to get them to connect is to do that. Yeah, in other words, you have to literally build them attached. Otherwise, they won't lock together. They don't have the merge block functions that I was hoping to see when I tried to use them. I tried diligently to try and make it work. But no, you have to either use merge blocks in conjunction with it, or it just won't work. It won't lock together on its own. Which is... that was sorely depressing. I really wanted to use it for all kinds of purposes and stuff like that. It looked great. It looks great. It's just not as functional as I'd like it to be. So I decided I'd make something a little bit more user-friendly, I guess. If you didn't want to actually use the airlocks here, you could just tear out the doors and put in regular doors instead. That'd be a fairly simple system. I tried putting these together with another one. There's always a gap, like right along this section here. Like if I can't do that because it's a station. It doesn't turn. But basically, if you put these together, there's always a gap right here in this spot that I'm looking at, and that little gap was kind of annoying, but better than nothing, I guess. And it does disconnect freely without any error, any issues. That's why I use these tri-blocks instead of like a thick full block like this. Because if you merge block these together, they basically become permanent connections, which is not any good. It has to be disconnectable, because otherwise, what's the point? To some degree. is there anything else I wanted to say? I'm trying to think here. What else have I been doing with this? Well, it covers pretty much all the modules I've built so far, and my plans are to just basically build like a skeleton of a ship that just has a bunch of like just a skeleton. Literally, like I just draw, say like, let's like just tear out, just like, yeah, let's just build a stick man here. Just as an example idea. I don't know why I'm bothering with this, because you probably get the idea. Just a little stick man. Okay, now this little stick man, you just say like you put a component like here, and then a component there, and a component there, and a component there of each of these modules throughout the parts on the guy, and then you connect them all together via hallways and other systems and stuff. And then you put a shell over it, so it actually has, you know, a body to work with. That's kind of the idea I wanted to go with for these modules. Was I basically put together a ship based off first a skeleton, then I hook all these modules onto that skeleton, then I connect them via hallway modules or some other equivalent, and I connect all their vents together, I connect any conveyors together, and then I can just assemble the ship, assemble the rest of the ship by putting a shell on it that armors it up and secures it. And there would be actually some space in between. In the inside, there would be like these little spaces like this, for example, in between various components and parts of a ship, which at first you'd say like, well, that's a horrible waste of space, or etc. reasons or something. But what this does partially is it causes damage that would maybe travel, say, if you hit this right here, right, this block right here, and it's not connected to this block with some attack weapon or something, and it damages it and distorts it, it does not distort this block, which might actually make this block weaker towards further damage. Admittedly, if you can nail like a missile into one of these holes, into one of these gaps inside the ship, that might cause more damage to each of the interior components. But you have to blow through the armor first, and then second, you have to know, you have to kind of position some actual aiming and effort into the task. Also, with the spaced armor, explosives are less effective in general against interior components, I find. So, I mean, as long as you're like hitting a wall between you and the component. Once you actually get through the wall, blowing the wall open further and then hitting the component that you want to hit more, so it becomes easier. But at that point, you're still aiming at the component you're trying to blow up anyway. So, eh. What else is there to say? Well, I wanted to use modules to create quality spaceships. I think I may have enough to achieve that. I wish that blinking on my screen would stop. And yeah, I'm gonna keep working on these modules, but I wanted to show that off and at least put a video out so people know what's going on. And that's about it. Not much else to show at this time. I'm sorry if it was at all exceedingly long or not as interesting or something. I don't know. I tried to make it interesting because I was talking about all kinds of different things regarding this and stuff, and yeah, I hope that was at least moderately entertaining. If you're wondering what that is over there, that's the 3 basic ships in the vanilla game. I collected them for design ideas in the future if I have trouble coming up with a design for a room. This is just a little silly thing I made for no reason. But that's it. Yeah, that's just all that is. So I'm gonna just close up for here, and that's the end of this particular episode. I'm glad you watched it and enjoyed it or whatever, and I hope you'll be back again for more episodes. Or something like that. Yeah, I'll be recording. Selenvo out.